Hi, everybody. I'm Madonna Cacciatore, the Executive Director of Christopher Street West and LA Pride. And I first off just want to thank Amy and Nancy and the Passionistas Project for having us all here today and for bringing this awareness to our community as women and as the LGBTQIA Two-Spirit community. It is a great honor for me to be sitting here and to have all of, look at this room. I'm just, these people are here because I love them and I love their activism, and I'm just incredibly honored to be here. And each one of us represents an intersectionality of our community. So without further ado, I'm just going to say that quick 2 sentences about me. I come from, I've been an activist all my life. I came out when I was very, very young, and I'm very, very old now, so it's a long time ago. And I came through sort of the AIDS crisis, lost my brother to AIDS in the 90s, and I've been doing this kind of work for many, many years. Enough about me. I would like to introduce my co-moderator, the person with whom I am inspired to work with every day, who is a fierce activist for change, who doesn't let me get away with anything, which is great. Alexandra Magadan is on my board of Christopher Street West, on the board of directors, and is an Indigenous, Latinx, intersex, trans, feminine person that uses their name as pronouns. After a violent incident in the workplace fueled by transphobia, Alexandra's work includes trans client advocate at St. John's Well Child and Family Center, a workforce development case manager at Trans Latinx Coalition, and at the LA LGBT Center's Trans Wellness Center. Alexandra recently learned of their intersex identity after years of living the trans experience, and continues to use their voice for the underserved and underrepresented trans and intersex community in Los Angeles County, and serves as an advocate both for themselves and all of the communities which they represent. Alexandra, I'm honored to be co-moderating this with you today. You're one of the people who keeps me, centered, and I really appreciate you being here. And just take it away.
Thank you so much, Madonna. I appreciate those very kind words. Also, I want to add that Madonna has done an amazing job at CSW LA Pride, has brought a lot of intersection, and is always very intentional and impactful when she's doing the work. And I just want to say a big thank you from us, and obviously your work shows, and this amazing panel is here, and thanks to you. So I just want to give that that thanks to you. But yeah, with that being said, I also do want to say that as we sit here with the intersections that we sit with today, sorry, my screen went a little blank. Sorry. Am I still here? Got it. Okay, thank you. So as we sit here with the intersections that we sit with today, 2020 has reminded us of the things that work and the things that don't work. Many of the things that don't work. It has moved us to a place where we have to acknowledge pain, and we have to acknowledge that there is a healing process. Healing is painful, it's uncomfortable, it's hard, but it is beautiful. And so with that pain, we must also acknowledge the pain that is caused unto others. And so for this moment, I would like for us to give us a moment of thought, a moment of silence, for all of the people that have been lost to discrimination and injustice in the world. And specifically on with the thought of the work that we're going to be doing moving forward in 2020 and in 2021. So I would just like to take a moment and think of that, and think of what we will do, and of those people that have been lost. as we wrap up that thought, let's take a big, deep breath, because sometimes when we think of pain, we forget to breathe. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes and let us know that you're here and you have arrived.
Thank you, Alexandra.
Of course.
Yeah, that's why we're all here. And it's to remind ourselves of the connectedness of all living things and those who have passed. I just want to do a quick intro with each one of the people on this fabulous, amazing panel. UA Begay, I've also been a fan of yours for a long time. UA is of the nomadic people clan, born for the Towering House clan. Maternal grandfather is of the Black Sheep clan, and paternal grandfather is of the Near the Water's Edge clan, born in Flagstaff, Arizona, section of the country that I'm becoming very fond of as my family lives in that part of Arizona, and identifies as a Navajo transgender woman. She's been involved with many organizations such as the Red Circle Project, Ape Huku'u Cultural Community Services, Gender Justice LA, Indigenous Pride LA, and other organizations that center Two-Spirit and LGBTQ+ communities. Welcome, UA.
Thank you.
And then I'll go around. Yeah, do you want to say a couple of things about why you're here and what what you'd like to see in the world, or what you'd like to at least accomplish today through this panel?
Yeah, just a few things. First and foremost, I do want to say thank you so much, Madonna, for inviting me. Thank you, Alexandra, for inviting me. For folks who don't know, Madonna in 2019 was, as y'all heard, they are executive director of the CSW. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, executive director. Madonna was actually she reached out to the indigenous community in LA to not only have us in the CSW LA Pride Parade, but also for us to open that up. So I just want to acknowledge and give thanks to you, because I feel like a lot of Pride events could learn from you. I mean, you stuck your neck out for us. You gave us a lot of exclusive privileges that are denied to not many communities. So thank you very much. I do consider Madonna an Indigenous ally first and foremost. And second of all, I do want to note that I also do identify as a Two-Spirit trans woman as well, from the Navajo people. And yeah, I am excited to learn today what my sisters are bringing to the table. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Yue. Next, I have Ashley Shine. You see Seppi Shine and Ashley Shine sitting there together. I'm going to start with Ashley, who is an American actress, improviser, writer, producer, and filmmaker, born in Dayton, Ohio. She's best known for her roles in Dyke Central, which it feels like I need to see that, and Johnson's Family Dinner. As an out and proud Black bisexual woman, Ashley continues to use her unique voice and perspective to fight racism, bi eraser, and biphobia in all communities. She continues this conversation with her new comedy series, #TMI. Ashley, welcome, and say a few words for us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Madonna, for having me, and Alexandria. I appreciate you too.
Thank you. This is like a tech rehearsal, you know, when you're in tech rehearsal for a show and the lights aren't working at the same time as, you know, the sound is off. So thanks for bearing with me on this. Seppi, I've loved you for a long time, girl. I've loved your work and your fierce activism and your spirit, and I'm just so proud to have you here. Seppi is a proud Iranian American business law attorney, small business owner, feminist, and civil rights advocate. She serves the city of West Hollywood as an appointed business license commissioner, and also serves the county of Los Angeles as a member of the LA County Assessors Advisory Council. As an LGBTQ+ leader, she has led many boards and organizations over the past 20 years, including as a past co-president for the LGBT Bar Association of Los Angeles. Welcome, Seppi. And you'd like to say anything about why you're here and your work, we'd love to hear it.
Well, I'm here because you called me to be of service. So anytime you call or Robin calls, I will say yes. I'm also here because as a feminist and LGBTQIA plus advocate, this summit was really called to me. I'm honored to be here with such incredible people on the panel, and really looking forward to cultivating an uplifting and informative discussion with everyone. And Alexandra, thank you for co-moderating and everything you said about Madonna, absolutely. And it's such an honor to, I think this is the first time we're seeing each other. It's an honor to meet you.
Thank you so much. The honor is all mine to meet all of you. You all are so amazing. So I'd like to introduce Amy Lou Palmer, uses she, her pronouns, and Bonnie's Reader uses she, her pronouns. Am I correct?
Yes.
And together they make More to Say.
Yes.
More to Say is an inevitable expression of independent music duo Bonnie Reader and Amy Lou Palmer, formed in 2010 in Los Angeles, California. More to Say reflects an eclectic indie rock soul sound. This queer married duo seeks to uplift, inspire, and push boundaries through music, but their expression expands far beyond that. Our music represents our championing of healthy, loving relationships, regardless of race, orientation, or gender. We strive to bring a vibration of diversity, inclusivity, and empowerment. Their music reflects their musical roots, their actionism, their spirituality, and their lives as a married couple. It's a conversation. It's real. It's raw. It's more to say. Would you like to say something, please?
It sums us up. Yeah. We just want to thank you guys for including us in this panel. And yeah, as Seppi said, you know, Madonna and Robin, call, we're coming. We want to be a part of change and affecting people as much as we can in a positive light, which also affects us. So we're just honored to be a part of you guys' program. And Alexandria and Nancy, thank you for having us and putting this together, and everybody for just shining. Ashley, shine.
Thank you so much for that. And next, I'd like to introduce Robin McWilliams, uses she, her pronouns. Robin McWilliams grew up in Long Beach. She eventually made Hollywood her home for most of her adult life. She made her living doing hair while juggling acting, directing, dance, and art. Eventually became full-time owner of CEO of Mad Catch Entertainment, and represents a diverse list of clients from New York and LA, and has expanded to, after 14 years together, Robin married Madonna August 5th, 2017 at the Los Angeles LGBT Center's Frankberg Theater. And they continue to thrive and work in Hollywood with their cat tribe. Anything you'd like to add, Robin?
Oh, wait, sorry about that. It's pretty much covered everything. I just wanted to thank you all for being part of this. And, you know, I just respect each and every one of you so deeply, as you all know that. So, Yui, it's nice to meet you for the first time. I think we may have met during Pride, but there were so many people around us. So, and Ashley, congratulations on TMI. It's doing beautifully. And Seppi is running for WeHo Council. And then my girls, Vanessa and Amy, you know, Alexandra, you just slay me every day. You really do with your work. So, and of course my wife, I just love you and I'm proud of you.
Whatever. Yeah, she loves me too.
What? I said that. Hi, Annie.
We'll chat later. So the next thing, thank you, everybody. You know, we only have an hour. I could talk to you all literally all day. This could, Amy and Nancy will be like, you need to shut it off now. It's 5 o'clock. We got something else to do. So we'll keep it moving. So intersectionality is an interesting term, and we use a lot now, especially where we are in this particular place in the movement. So I asked my friend Gerald Garth on our board of directors, I said, what does intersectionality mean to you? And I like the way he said it to me. It was very concise. He said it looks at how all of a person's identities show and how the intersections impact their lives. For example, to be a woman is one experience. To be a Black woman experientially is completely different. And then if you're a lesbian Black woman or a bi Black woman, that adds another layer to your intersections of your life. And then how do those intersections impact with other people's intersections? And how do we take those experiences and I like this other thing he said, engage and include voices, leaders, and communities that represent themselves. We are all the experts of our own experiences. So for me, that's very important because we all come from our own place and there are no two people who are the same, and that's incredible. And I feel like there's a way for us to take that really diverse, beautiful energy within each person and with the intersections that happen when we meet each other, and to honor, respect, and propel each other forward instead of dragging each other down or oppressing each other. So I just wanted to go around very quickly and say, thinking about intersectionality and your power, ask what that means to you, and just a few words about how you feel about that. And Robin, I'll just start with you. Like, what does that mean to you? She doesn't want me to start with her. Okay, I'll start with Vanice. Vanice, how do you feel about like where you are and how your intersectionality impacts the world?
Well, first of all, we had to really dive into the word. And in the article that you sent, that was awesome. And I guess in thinking about it, how it shows up or how it has shown up all my life, I had to think about even the beginning. Like my brother asked me the other day, when was the first time you discovered or were made, did you become aware you were Black? And I thought, what a powerful question, because I did not know until I was about 7 years old. And it came from, I was playing with a little boy whose apartment was on the lower floor, and they had an open balcony area, and he would play with Star Wars toys. And I would come by every day and play with him. And one day he wasn't there. So I went to his door and I knocked on the door, and his mom answered and was like, he can't come out and play, and sent him to the door. And he came to the door and he said, I can't play with you because my mom said you're Black. And I spent the rest of the afternoon trying to figure out this thing Black, like I'm Black, like what did that really mean? Because it wasn't something we talked about. So living my life always from kind of what I consider an other, I noticed that our silence keeps certain perceptions in place. When we have to deal with the doctor and we're wondering, is this the gay issue that's coming up with the doctor or the interracial thing? Like we had an incident with our doctor, and it was like, we thought it was the gay thing, and he turned around and he's like, my kids have a lot of black friends. We're like, oh, okay, it's the Black thing. And, but you never know what it is, and just learning patience and the power of just engaging anyway, instead of being insulted or feeling as if people should know more, and the power of changing someone's perspective just by entertaining the conversation of, and not coming at it like, they're ignorant and I need to fix this person, but okay, this is real for you, and I'm gonna walk through it anyway without browbeating you about it. But I don't know. I just think it's impactful, and I think we try to just meet people where they are, regardless of these intersectionalities, regardless of that we're pit bull owners and we're lesbians and we're, you know, whatever, women, all the others, like to meet people kind of where they are, because the work just started for everybody, really. Yeah. And it's an ongoing process. There is no destination. And to look at it like this requires maintenance. It requires constant teaching and sharing from a place of love and not anger, and to not forget that even when the world is turned upside down. So I hope that wasn't too much.
Really, no, that's fantastic. You said so many things there that are just so vital in this, where we exactly are in this journey, and how we came from, you know, we already came from all these different places, and then we slammed into a pandemic that created new issues for all of us. And that's where we are right now. And we're all, you know, if we see that people are still trying to, we were already trying to figure that out, and this happened. And Amy, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
but I was just
interrupt me, because I'll just keep.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, like, even though we crashed into this pandemic, I felt like we were at this pass where people were more about pacifying and sweeping these issues under the rug than dealing with it. And so now we're at this area where we don't have a choice. Like, you cannot know, and sorry, you can't see all that's been going on and sweep any of this under the rug. And if you do, then we now know that you are just being compliant and you are racist and you do want things to say. Like, there's no way you can hide now. So, sorry, move on.
No, don't be sorry, brilliant. Who wants to jump in? Because I feel like there's a lot of energy happening right now. And Ashley, go.
For me, during this pandemic, I started trying to create safe spaces, especially for Black LGBTQ+ people. And so I am on the board of Still Bisexual, and we have a wellness group that we host each month called Sacred Space. And I really wanted the community as a whole, because I think at times in LGBTQ spaces, depending on your sexuality, there could be discrimination. And so I wanted to create a safe space where everyone could just join and just have this beautiful, like, kumbaya moment where for an hour we kind of forget all the issues just for an hour, and then we can go back into the world rejuvenated and able to face our everyday intersectionalities and the complexities and how it can really mess with our mental health, you know? So that's how I've been able to kind of help myself and others during this time.
And these events that Ashley has put on have been really successful, and people are just, it's really been beneficial. For me, the way I, in intersectionality, is all about how I lead in this world. Being basically am Iranian, I was born to a Muslim family. I'm an immigrant. I was an undocumented immigrant for 16 years of my life. When I was 8, close to 7, Vanice, was the first time I had an awareness of my sexuality being different from other girls in my family. You know, coming out as a lesbian to my family when I was 17, well, to myself when I was 17, to my mom when I was 19. These are all different intersections, and really growing up as an Iranian to 2 parents who were a lot older than I was. So when we moved here, everything was Persian, 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 Persian. And so I would go out in the world and everything was American. And so I kind of also lived in these 2 different worlds. And then also, you know, keeping the fact that I was undocumented a secret. So I really see myself now as a bridge to intersectionality across the board. And I think that's really, when we talk about intersectionality, the way I kind of framed it now, that's one way, but to make it active is really truly how I feel we will continue to have advances and empowerments of the marginalized communities that have been affected by patriarchy and white supremacy, by intersectionally all coming together and standing as one for every single one of us.
Incredible. Yes. I'd love to hear from you, on this topic, especially with your amazing background. Like I said, I've always had so much respect for you and all of the Two-Spirit and Indigenous people. I felt like I was disappointed when I did my 23andMe and I had no native blood. I thought, oh, I've always connected with Indigenous people since the day I was born, and I never knew what that was, but this is very, very important and special to me personally and to the world. We have a lot to learn from the Indigenous people, and we're not very good at learning, but I'd love to hear from you about this and your experience as well.
Got it. Well, don't worry, Madonna, you and maybe 98% of other white people feel like they got Indigenous blood in them when they really don't. I feel like that's just human connecting on a human level in my experience. It's just, you resonate with the humanity, you resonate with Indigenous people's humanity, because oftentimes we're not seen as humans. Even to this day, we're still seen as animals. And I'm just saying Indigenous folks as Native Americans, but Indigenous people globally, Indigenous peoples of Africa are still being seen as animals. Indigenous people of Australia are still being seen as animals, even into the Philippines. That we have these slang words to dehumanize Indigenous people and also to dehumanize our own Indigenous roots. So don't worry, Madonna, you're not alone. As far as intersectionality, I always tell folks that Indigenous folks always have some form of intersectionality in their philosophies. Also, it was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw as well. It was coined in, excuse me, my throat's acting up. It was coined in English by her, but I feel like a lot of Indigenous folks, we already have our own versions of intersectionality. For me, growing up, this was my intersectionality. As you can see, it's kind of like our medicine wheel. And within that medicine wheel, it contains the 4 directions, with you being in the center. It contains the 4 seasons, with you being in the center. I'm sorry, with your home being in the center of those 4 seasons. As Madonna just read my introduction earlier, I have 4 clans. And my 4 clans surround me, and I'm that middle person. That's who I am. That's my identity as a Navajo woman. So for me, intersectionality, when I first got into it, I first encountered intersectionality as more of a I don't want to say bad thing, but it was more like I think folks call it deficit framing, where your identities are actually a bad thing, and your identities help contribute to these bad things that are happening to you. So that's where I first learned intersectionality from, was because I'm trans, this is happening, because I'm Native, this is happening, because I'm a woman, this is happening, yada, yada, yada. It wasn't until I started doing a lot of Native American and Indigenous studies that I started learning that intersectionality can also be asset framing, meaning your identities also contribute to the greater good. Me being trans is a blessing because I have these life experiences and whatnot that other people cannot see. Because I'm Native, I have these knowledge and life ways that other people don't know that I can help share and contribute to other people. And also intersectionality is my life's work, as is with everyone on this panel. We cannot be speaking, we are very different to our hair texture, to our skin, to our body size, whether you're slim, fat, what have you, if you're able-bodied or not able-bodied, if you're college educated or if you don't have a degree, stuff like that, that we have so many intersectionalities among us that informs us of our work, our knowledge, and our experiences. Um, and it's also one of the reasons why I feel like intersectionality is also very key in healing. My favorite line that I love to say to everyone is education is medicine. When you do education, you read a lot of intersectionality. When you do a lot of studying, especially about your own self, your own people, you will notice a lot of intersectionalities that will help heal you as well. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Thank you for that. That's really eye-opening, and I really appreciate your thoughts and perspective and the place from which you came. I did want to say something very quickly about, Native people being treated like animals. And, I think at the end of this, I'm going to share something with you that will come back and visit that. But I really appreciate everything you just said. And I'd love to hear from Amy and Robin. If either of you have anything to add, please jump in, and then we'll go on to the next topic.
I just want to say regarding intersectionality, for me, I've always kind of felt like a bridge builder in between worlds, even though, the majority of my life, my identity was straight. I didn't come out till I was about 26 years old. I grew up very religious, very Christian, even went off to Bible college. But since I kind of surrendered, I surrendered to who I really felt I was, and began to claim my identity instead of fighting it. I began to see the intersections, exactly what we're talking about, and began to feel like a personal responsibility to not just live my truest self for me, but to live my truest self for other people as well, to be a light, to be a beacon, to show that for me personally, I can be a Christian and I can be a gay woman. I can be married to a beautiful Black woman. All the things that are kind of seen as taboo, even to this day in 2020. I want to help bridge those gaps and be a teacher to some people who want to know more. So I always tend to leave myself open for questions. I've told people since the beginning, if you have questions about anything, I will do my best to answer them the truest I can, the most honest, and be the most vulnerable that I can be, because I really feel that that's the only way that we really learn anything. We can read books all day and they're great, but I feel like through connection and personal communication, that's how you really build change and difference. Taking the time, taking the patience with people, even when we don't want to deal with it, even when it's hard, or, I feel like that's really where true change happens and can be a huge, make a huge difference. So.
She engages a lot.
Thank you.
Like, she gets a lot of questions you don't even believe are still coming in 2020, but I'm glad that she engages.
I don't know why, but everybody in my screen is completely frozen. I don't know if can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So, Robin, did you want to add anything? Don't want to skip over my wife.
I thought Alexandra.
Oh.
We haven't come to Alexandra.
No, I'm going there next. So, and then I'm going to go to Alexandra. She's
Okay.
worried.
I was worried about Alexandra. I want to hear from Alexandria. So,
We will.
I grew up here in California, so I was very gifted with the fact that I had openness around me all the way around. My mother was with a woman for quite a while, so sexuality wasn't a big deal in that respect. We were just dirt poor and like everybody else, and nothing changed. But my mother was very good at making us aware of who we were and who was around us. And with that, I think I was always just very aware of the white privilege that came with me, and we knew it. So to know that you weren't any better than anyone else, and that your sole purpose in life was to be with community, was to work with community, and to help, period. You saw anyone in distress, you saw anyone that needed help, you saw anyone that needed a hand, anything that you could to give back. That's the way I live my life. Someone who is like mine, so bonus for me. So I was always very aware, well aware of what was going around me and how it affected each individual and me as well. So that's it.
Thank you, Robin.
So when
Alexandra,
yeah, thank you. So when I think of intersection, I literally think of the intersection, right? And I think of, am I driving? Am I walking? Am I on public transportation? Where does the road begin and where does the road end from my intersection, right? And can I give somebody a lift to where they need to go, right? Use my privilege, use my power, use the assets that I have, right, for the benefit of the other person that doesn't. And oftentimes we talk about intersection and we talk about it in such a lovely way, but we forget that sometimes we have blind spots, right, as we're driving. And some of those intersections don't pertain to us. And some of them we shouldn't speak on. Some of those intersections we have to realize, is this a privileged road that I'm driving on to Beverly Hills, right? Or am I on a path that it doesn't even have any paved roads? Are they dirt roads? Do people can't afford to get to the places that they need to get to? And so when I think of intersection and where to meet people where they're at, I like to put myself in that road. Like, it is that person's intersection past mine, but what can I do to help them get to where they need to get to? So I don't want to crash anybody's car. I don't want them to crash onto mine. So knowing those boundaries of that intersection and understanding where people are coming from, why people are getting there, where they need to get to, and having that honest communication of what really actual true intersections look like.
well, I love you. One of the many reasons. So Alexandra, you want to take the next section?
Yes, of course. So as we're talking about intersections, we're ready to have this conversation, right? And as we think of the missing, murdered, and stolen Indigenous women and girls, trans femmes, and two-spirit individuals, what are we collectively and individually doing to address this? And what steps are we putting into action to change this epidemic for the better of those communities? And
Not
anyone
enough.
that would like to,
Not enough.
not enough.
Not enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious about, UA brought this question, and I think it's a brilliant question. I mean, it's the question. And I think there are a lot of things that we're talking about in this conversation that can help, and that can help us sadly understand how we got here. It's very sad. It's awful. But how do we, in this small group, this powerful group, there's so much talent in this room and so much great work being done. How do we take that work out into our communities and get better at this? I mean, for lack of a better, term. I'd love to hear from anybody who wants to speak about this at this point.
So I can speak on that. So just an FYI for folks who don't know what missing, murdered, Indigenous women, girls, trans femmes, and two-spirit is. Basically, it's an epidemic in many Indigenous communities in Canada, in the United States. And then later it also included Mexico, because a lot of the tribes along the border and a lot of the tribes whose traditional migratory land routes that the border crossed through, that's why I started including folks in Mexico. Women, girls, including trans femme and two-spirit folks, are being kidnapped, trafficked, and or missing. And when I say missing, I mean missing in terms of lost in the foster care system, lost in the jail systems, lost also in the juvenile systems, even hospital care, they get lost. And there's a lot many ways that they get lost, missing, or stolen. We don't know how they go missing, but family members report them not returning home. Some cases happen in proximity to construction sites, especially oil pipeline sites, where the majority of the workforce are cis men, and we call these sites man camps. Many pipelines near Native communities threaten the women, girls, and two-spirit folks of those Native communities. So I just put first foremost, I want to highlight some issues that are kind of affecting this and kind of maybe some solutions in my opinions. So some of the issues are that cases of MMIW aren't specific to a woman's race, ethnicity, and gender. So there's no way that you can go into the database and search up Native American women and see what we're suffering. How MMIW, first and foremost, MMIW was started grassroots by a Native and Indigenous woman in Canada and in the US. Free labor, they did everything. They went to police stations and they kind of started their own database. What they noted was that instead of applying those filters, instead what they had to do is they had to sift through all criminal cases. So they had to sift through the criminal cases that included if their victim was a Native person. Then they had to physically sift through those Native people and see which ones were women. So imagine going directly into a police station or wherever they keep their records and manually sifting for that, because they don't have an easy, they don't have the access to search for Native American women wasn't there. So they had to create that on themselves. Also, the agencies who did collect these cases, whether it be police departments or what have you, they mixed up a lot of cases of American Indians in the US with Indian American. So folks who have ancestry of India and American. So they conflated those cases. And so when they were trying to ask them, what about the Native folks? And they were giving them, names of people that didn't sound Native, but rather had ancestry from India. Many reports misclassified Indigenous people racially as white. So when the police would report them, they would mark them as white. So lots of them were also misclassified and were never found until they had to actually be like, well, why was this case, why was a white woman, why was this criminal site on the reservation or near a reservation? And it turned out that she was Native. Many missing cases in general are in the thousands, and police are not equipped to handle these. Many of these requests get deleted, and the people filing the missing person reports, they are not notified of their requests being deleted from the system. Many requests take over a year for them to get even some type of response. Not an answer, but just some type of response. And also the Department of Justice and city police cases are not congruent because they use different systems. So that means there's no clear communication between the two. So it's really hard to get an accurate number of how many Native women are actually going missing. And just FYI, when I say women and girls, I imply it is inclusive of cis and trans folks. Also, there's no way to specify which tribes these cases belong to. And I bring that up because if they do specify them, then they can somehow work with the tribe that they come from. Because the tribe also does have some type of power in terms of missing people and stuff like that. The last one that I'll bring up is many coroner's office. Many coroners are actually elected officials and they do not have to be medically trained. So what ends up happening is when they look at a body, they racially classify it as either a Latina or Latinx or Asian. Because to them, Native just isn't an option. So they get racially misclassified even after death. There's so many more issues that come up, but some of the solutions that some people have brought up was that May 5th is National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. This is just an awareness day. It's not really specific steps. There's also a movement called the Red Dress Movement, where people hang dresses, usually traditionally styled dresses, to let folks know of this epidemic. So for me, because I'm more of a direct, I'm more direct. You know, awareness days are okay. Social media movements are okay, but for me, I'm more like results driven. For me, I've attended a lot of MMIW events, a lot of groups that I've been invited to, and we all unanimously agree that there needs to be some type of task force that is funded, that is empowered, whether it be a task force within the police department, whether it be a task force on a county level, on a state level, and even on a federal level. There has to be some type of task force in which the people who are on the task force are given, you know, enough power to fully investigate these. No more red tape, no more bureaucratic bullshit, especially when it has to deal with police officers. Also, if the task force are created, they have to work with Indigenous communities, because Indigenous women are already doing work for free now. And a lot of them have been doing it via donations. So Venmo, PayPal, you know, usually how grassroots people start stuff, that's how they've been living, and they're not getting paid a fair wage. And this is like, some of them are going over 100 hours a week trying to update these databases and sift through these cases. And also somehow update and maintain this large database and make sure it's congruent across Department of Justice, city, state, what have you, because at this point, us Indigenous people, us Native people, we are sick and tired of, you know, receiving bullshit answers. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
That was a lot to unpack, and it's actually really, I mean, I can't even, it's unfathomable what you just said. Some of that, you know, about the identifying bodies. And I mean, I'd love to, I'm sure that sparked a lot in people that just, if you.
Do we find that most of these, most everyone that we have to deal with in these kind of situations are usually male, which is why we're not getting the answers?
In terms of like who we have to ask? Or do you mean who are the
Everything,
assailants?
all of this. I mean, the fact that we have to deal with it as male anyway, and women are being abducted and kidnapped and sex trafficked and all of that by men, as we know, and I don't want to get angry. Do we find that most of the people that, when doing the outreach, it's always a man, so we're not getting the answers?
I don't
getting the
know.
obstacles?
I don't know who it is in terms of gender of who we're asking towards, but I will tell you that most of the assailants who are either attacking us or kidnapping us, they are cis men.
Yes.
But the unique case with this is they are mostly non-native. So you know how usually people say a lot of
But my
crimes are
question is,
interracial? Except with this case, it's not. Like Native men aren't kidnapping Native men. Native men aren't killing Native women as far as like white men. And one of the reasons why that's the case is because a lot of tribal laws, a lot of criminal laws are handled by the state rather than tribes. If you kill someone, it becomes a federal jurisdiction. Tribes can't prosecute you. So even if you kill a Native woman on a reservation, the only thing the tribal police, the only thing they can do is transfer you to the state police. And even then, a lot of them get a slap on the wrist because it's hard. It is very hard to find evidence to convict them.
Wow, I mean, we are getting so many comments about this. They're just flying in, and I'm just going to say that this is having a huge impact. And one of the comments that I'm getting is the general public is not hearing about these atrocities. I myself have only seen a few blurbs. How can we help spread the word about this? How can we help people understand what's happening the way you just described it?
Yes, definitely. So one thing I will say is the United States and the rest of America, they don't know what's going on with their own Native people. They don't know what's going on in these communities because large media outlets don't report this. They don't report this. They don't highlight it. So some of the ways that you can be educated and notified about these cases is you can follow Indian Country Today. They have a website, Facebook, Twitter, what have you. Indians with a Z at the end, they are actually a very credible source as well. I forgot their name. I'll come back to later. There's many also tribal newspapers. So Navajo Times, I'm from the Navajo Nation. Navajo Times is actually a very good, reliable source as well. And also there's a lot of activists on the ground who are doing this work. So many of them are like Rebecca Nagle, Nagle, Nagle. I'm trying to think of some other folks. Anita, I forgot her last name. Anita, she's actually the one who is one of the main people who are updating and keeping the database going. But there's various people out there. If you even just look up Indian Country Today, they will give links to a lot of activists and websites that help with Indigenous and Native issues as well.
I just want, thank you so much for all of that labor and emotion and work that you do, UA, and bringing this to light to many of us. A thought that comes to my head is like the segregation that continues to happen amongst society, amongst ourselves, and the work that we just focus in basically our immediate like lane, that we don't put the privileges, the finances, the funding that are necessary to do the work that we need to do on all levels, and how we leave this to certain communities to deal with their own, right? And when I talk about that, we have to talk about it in the entire intersection. We have left each community to deal with their own impacted communities, to fend for themselves, and this is exactly what we see right now. What we're seeing is we're not allocating funds that are immediately available to everyone so that everyone can have a thriving future. And so this just gets me like heated up and angry, because we talk about policies and we don't talk about how these policies intersect and how we can utilize this for the betterment of our society. We only talk about how we can utilize, even when we talk about education, we don't use the monies that the United States has for all of the United States, including, right, the certain little areas that don't get enough funding to continue anything. But this goes back to funding and the allocation that we must continue to fight for us to even have just the same level of anything. Thank you so much, UA, for bringing this to light.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alexandra. And is anybody, Ashley, Seppi, Bunny, any other thoughts about this? Describe perhaps in your intersectionality. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
But anyway, do you have anything like to add, or any, some of the things I just mentioned? I think, obviously atrocious and very specific to the Indigenous community, but I've just wondered what your thoughts were as you were listening to that, and your personal story. How does that impact your personal story?
I just think it's really unfortunate. I just think it's really unfortunate and sad that this is going on, and I personally had no idea. Also, I've been very disturbed on a lot of Black and brown women that are getting, it feels like, kidnapped at these protests in these unmarked vehicles. And I don't see it on the mainstream news. I see it all on Twitter for like 3 weeks. And I was just traumatized because there's unmarked cars and they have guns and no one's answering anything. They're just pointing the guns at their friends and saying, I will shoot you if you even, you know, come after this vehicle. Right now, we're watching The Chi, and they basically have a Black girl that was kidnapped this season, and just to see the roadblocks within the first 72 hours is mind-boggling to me, because growing up as a kid, there has been people in the community that have gone missing, and there was nothing. There was mostly the community trying to find those kids. But I would see media outlets cover if it was a white child. They would have all types of resources. So I'm at a loss of words, because for me, I'm not a mother, but I love community, and I just am like, how do we protect the next generation, especially just young women, trans women. We have to do something to be able to protect them as they're walking down the street, protect them in healthcare, believe them when they say that something is wrong. Because I find that that is also something that we don't give credit to women of color speaking up for themselves. And just really listening on how do we protect I'm sorry, I'm getting like emotional, but just how do we protect people at this point?
I from a advocate and activist, political activist standpoint, I think we have to UA, thank you for making us all aware exactly what's going on. We need to help bring awareness, and also in our education system, as Alexandra, you pointed out, our education of our kids is filled with lies, quite frankly. You know, there's I've learned more, UA, about Indigenous people that you've spoken of than probably in the past 20 years. What we know of Indigenous people growing up in America in the education system is ridiculous. And we know that Black history is completely lies and not taught. And it's very, it is very much a result of white supremacy. And we have to continue to dismantle systemic racism and white supremacy and the segregations it has created between. So basically there's really the lack of intersectionality and the segregations created to disempower most people to the benefit of one group. And I think this is a good time to do that. And also looking at how, unfortunately, our political system to get policies passed is really rooted in money. It is absolutely rooted in money, especially since Citizens United passed and gave corporations the power to be considered people and start pouring in money into elections. That was really started the downfall of our politics and where we are now. In order to get policies passed, so to get money to education, to get time with your elected leaders that are in your area that can do something to amplify this or pass policies to change how people are classified, right? And that takes money and a political organizing the political organizing can happen. I mean, that is absolutely possible. And I think that's really something that raising awareness, organizing, and then from that, funneling in money to continue doing all the work that needs to be done.
And this is why we have Seppi Shine running for office, right there.
Yes, somebody.
Right, Yui? I mean, seriously.
And somebody just wrote, we protect them by not voting for people. Oh, I'm getting my own echo. By not voting for people who pass policies that hurt our community. We protect them by holding those in power accountable. We march, we scream, we continue to fight. They have to hear us. They have to listen. We're not going to be quiet anymore. Kill the patriarchy, eat the rich. I mean, you know, look, there's so much, you know, we keep thinking we're making progress, and we are, but, you know, we see what's happening right now. And if you all, we're about to run out of time, and I'm going to allow everyone to have some space for a couple of other closing thoughts with everybody. But I just want to say, I sent this article that this has been going on for a very, very long time. You know, the word hysteria was often applied to a woman's emotion. It often is now. If a woman is expressing an emotion, it's all she's considered hysterical or out of control or whatever has been defined by patriarchy. As a matter of fact, hysteria comes from the word, the hysterectomy comes from the word hysteria, which it directly applies to the uterus, and the removal of hysteria from a woman's body. I won't go into all that because we're about to run out of time, and I could talk another 3 hours about that. But I wanted to say that there have been these patterns of oppression that have been going on and on and on. And it's people like all of you who can, you know, Alexandra, I wanted you to say a few words about platform, because we're talking a lot about, you know, raising consciousness and also speaking about our rights from our own voices. And Alexandra spearheaded this project at Christopher Street West, which I think is quite incredible. If you wouldn't mind, Alexandra, just saying a few words about platform, and then we'll sort of close this out.
Yeah, I don't mind at all. So Platform is a policy leadership advocacy training program, but it's not just at CSW, right? It's what moves you like this. We were just moved. We were just shaken into action. And if you feel that feeling of like, I need to do something, this is a perfect moment to sit with that something and take control of that energy. And instead of being angry and not doing nothing with that feeling, taking that into action and communicating with people whom you know. Everyone here has their name on. You can find us. I'm speaking for myself. Reach out to us and ask how we can get involved, how you can be part of a political movement that is there for all of us, right? And so educate yourself on policy, because policy is affecting this entire world. It will continue to affect how we live our life. And so I think it is important to not just focus on like something like Platform, which is amazing, but like think of the community that you live in, the communities that you're around, and how can you create the change that you need for those around you. But also, where do you sit with your intersection, and what are your blind spots? What are you not seeing? And whom can you assist with your own privilege and getting them the needs that they need met? And so this is like a perfect thought for us to leave with, so that we're not just left triggered and a little bit like, what's going on, but also motivated to do something for the future of your family and your friends and those closest to you, and motivated to create the change that you need. And I know some of us were left a little open with our emotions. So I do want to invite people to just take a deep breath, because I know I was like, so I just want you to take a deep breath and then just let it out. And so as we're sitting with our thoughts, I invite you to be the change that you see for yourself in this world. And invite for those that are on this panel to say a thought, to say something if you want to. Madonna?
I'm pretty open right now. I just feel very raw talking to you all, and I would just like to say that think about the, I just love what you just said, Alexandra, because think about and be in those groups of people where you can affect change, where you can have these conversations. What UA just did was like, we all did not know about that. And there is an opportunity for us with every human being we meet and in every situation, whether it's boldly or, in a one-on-one conversation, to educate people. The main thing is we have to have people in power who have our backs and who we don't, honestly, I think the indigenous people should be in charge of everything, because I feel like we would be a lot better off. But right now we have this system in place, and I would like, we're the people who can make the change in that system. All of us, we are the people. And not to sound corny, but we are the ones who can impact the change from our own intersections and from where we come, because those places are unique. We all need each other. And I'm just gonna throw a shameless, it's not my book, but I feel like everybody should read this book. It's called The Dreaded Comparison. It's about speciesism and how I'm just gonna read you one paragraph and then that'll be my ending. A belief that different species of animals are significantly different from one another in their capacities to feel pleasure and pain and live in an autonomous existence, usually involving the idea that one's own species has the right to rule and use others. So in other words, if you think that you're the superior race, species, whatever, you have this idea that yours is the one and that everybody else is inferior to you. And that's it's a great book. I'm vegan as well. So it also, UA, when you were talking about being called animals are, I think, probably got it going on. I have such a respect for the teachings I get from just observing how animals treat each other and how they deserve as much to be in this world as any of us, and how we use them for our own, sort of greed and benefit. I'm not going to go off on a vegan rant, but I feel like this is a really good book that's speaking to a lot of what we're all talking about, the dreaded comparison. So I would love to also, to Alexandra's point, just go around any closing thoughts, and then we're going to have you do a prayer to end the session.
I just want to mention that I think in moving forward, it's important for us to remember to be our sister's keeper. I think at times we can get away from that, thinking that it's about our struggle or our intentions, our focus, and this has been a great panel and a great realization in regards to how we can connect with one another and how we can better serve and better help one another. Moving forward, I just always want to be reminded to be my sister's keeper, to be looking out for that woman, that girl, that transgender person, that we can reach into their lives and help them if they need it in any way. And that goes towards the missing Indigenous women and people in that context as well. I don't have the answers. I don't know that any of us really have the answers, but I think we've got a lot of insight today. And in moving forward, just being aware and finding those avenues that we best fit in our lane to connect and to help the best that we can. So.
I like that. I agree. I think as horrific as this time is in some ways, it's also like stuff like this being available, although it's been available for years, but we didn't use it to this magnitude to connect with one another. It makes me think from my nerdy perspective, you know, if you're a programmer, if you want to break a system, you flood it with images and sound, and like that's what we're doing, and looking out for one another and connecting in this way and learning these new things that we can, you know, hold space for and spread awareness of. And I just want to thank you guys, like just for spending the time. Like it's so impactful that we just spent this time. There are questions and things we're talking about now that we haven't talked about in certain ways with each other, because, you know, all the other minutia that was in the way of surviving and getting whatever it is we were trying to get. And now we're just like still and able to share, and now we get to thrive. And it just made me think about one last statement, or one last thing someone told me once, that the amount of bad that is happening in your life is equal to the amount of good. So if that's true about this time, the flip side of our paranoias of what could go wrong could go so terribly and wonderfully right just from this. So I don't know, I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you guys.
Thank you
for the time.
UA, please get in touch with me, or I'm going to get in touch with you. I want to connect you to, I've been working with a couple of incredible women that are anti-trafficking advocates for some things we want to get done in West Hollywood. And I think it might be beneficial to put you in touch and see where that might lead.
All right, any other, Robin, Amy, any other closing thoughts? And then I'm going to close with Alexandra Yue. Yeah. It's all good. So Alexandra, let's just have your closing thoughts, and then we'll take it to Yue for closing thoughts and our closing prayer.
Thank you all for allowing us this space. We talked about an hour of intersection, right? And also, we mustn't forget that Black Lives Matter, right? And that all of these discriminations are still happening, that undocumented children are still locked up, that wherever we stand, we are still facing a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. But at the same time, we are being united. And so, as I said before, healing a scar is just so uncomfortable. It hurts, it's painful. But once the healing is done, you know, we learn lessons, and we find the beauty of that healing, and we can thrive. And so let's focus on a better future and on creating a path that is beautiful for everyone. Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, so my closing thoughts are, I think everyone wants to help Native Americans, but I'm gonna say, quite frankly, the best way you can help is funding. Because Native people can handle our own stuff. We do have Native people on the ground already. We just don't have enough funding. So if you can donate to us, that is the best way. The other thing I will say, maybe words of advice, is these are some things that I've learned in organizing and moving social justice forward, is that your work will never be enough. And that's a fact, because our work that we do in community organizing is continuous. So don't take it personal if someone isn't satisfied or it doesn't satiate their needs or their specific needs. Don't care too much. And this is relating to burnout. We don't want you to burn out. You are entitled to your time and your peace of mind as other people are entitled to theirs. Don't be in competition with community. Stop letting these companies and nonprofits gaslight you into thinking that people outside of your community are your competition. There's healing in collaboration. You can also do collaborative work. You don't have to compete for funds. You are not an instant creator. This thing that we created today, it took weeks of organizing and doing proper protocol. You cannot provide information and create events at a moment's notice, nor should you be held responsible for that. Research and investment takes time. It's okay to mess up. We all have a problematic past, but the idea should be moving forward and also to be healing and mindfulness. Remember, research is your friend. Always remember to honor the indigenous people whose land you're on. If you don't know any indigenous people on a personal basis, more than likely you're who we're trying to resist and fight against. And my last word of advice is learn the ways that you are oppressing other people. Even as a trans indigenous person, there are some ways that I do oppress other people. I'm working on ableism. I'm trying to help my disabled folks. And I'm messing up. I'm not ashamed to say I'm messing up. There's other ways I can help Black folks as well, Black trans folks. There's ways that I can help even Pacific Islanders, people in the Caribbean. You know, there's so many ways that we are unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously oppressing other people and how we can help better their situation. So with that, I'm gonna close out with my prayer. You don't have to bow your heads. If you want to close your eyes, you can close your eyes, but I just want you to kind of internalize everything that we have taken in today and to kind of take this off in good spirit and also to share this medicine. And by that, I mean sharing this video, because what you learned today, what a lot of you learned today, a lot of folks can learn as well. So with that, go to your happy place, go to wherever you go to find solace, and I'm going to close this out. Holy people, Mother Earth, Father Sky, changing woman, we gather today in good spirits. These past few days have been filled with education, healing, as well as reopening of some scars. It is through our shared experiences, both blessings and sufferings, that we, as all women, hope that those who are watching us and will watch us will gain a new profound understanding of life as a woman. Life as a woman in many of our respective communities as well. We pray that non-woman identifying folks take away from today our needs as well as our demands. We pray that non-identifying people will aid us in creating impactful and urgent changes in our communities, in our towns, in our cities, in our families, as well as in our interpersonal relationships. We also pray that you protect and continue to guide the warriors here today and those absent but doing meaningful work elsewhere in the world. We pray that you also continue to look after and one day free those children at the border, as well as those in internment camps, whether it would be one person or a collective who would make that change. We also pray that you help those battling the forest fires that are ravaging our lands, and that you one day allow fire departments and law enforcement to work with tribes who have a better handling on these fires. We pray that this pandemic ends as well, and that you embolden us to make that necessary change, because only we can change that. We also pray for the physical and political protections and well-being of Black trans women and femme folk. Thank you for allowing us to be here today to share wisdom and knowledge. Beauty is restored once again. 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 Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Speechless. Everybody go out and spread those beautiful lights out there. Let's make some change. Love you all.